Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. Welcome to another episode of The Deen Show. My name is Deen, I'm your host Eddie, and we're here talking about serious issues. We're here talking about things that are very important. We're talking about something also that's very cool. I think it's very cool to be a Muslim. It's very cool to be practicing Islam and knowing what your purpose in life is, knowing where you're going when you die, having some direction. And who best to give direction than the one who created you? Why take direction from anybody else? Why not take it from the one who took care of you when you were in your mother's womb? The one who's running this whole universe and he's in control of everything. Why not take direction from him? We're going to talk to one brother who's just a cool cat. This brother is not a rapper. He's not an actor. He's a Muslim, and he's doing something cool. We're going to be talking to our brother, the cool brother, Omar Carter, here on The Deenshow. So you don't want to go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Allah, there's only one God, and Muhammad is his messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah. Allah, there's only one God, and Jesus was his messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah.
I don't know why I did that. Maybe it's just to break the ice. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Omar Carter.
Thanks for having me, Eddie.
On The Deen Show.
Thank you. It's nice being here.
It's a pleasure to have. I'm glad you're here with us. We've known each other for a bit of a long time.
It's been a while.
And I've been having you on my mind.
That's good.
Alhamdulillah. So when I made the introduction to the show, I said, you're not an actor, you're not a rock star, a movie star, a hip-hop phenomena, but you're a Muslim. And I talked about how cool it is to be a Muslim. And I wanted to bring that up because nowadays you got to be sitting down with one of these individuals, the 50 Cents and the Tupacs, for people to think that's cool. But I think it's cool to talk to our brothers, for us brothers to talk and to talk about something that's cooler than all that, Islam. And we want the people to hear this story because you weren't always Muslim and you weren't always doing the coolest thing in the world, Islam. You were doing something else.
That's true.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and some of the history of what you used to live before, and then we'll come up to how and where you are now.
Well, as you already know, I grew up in Jamaica. I moved to the U.S. when I was about 12 years old. My father was what people would say a clergy member in the church.
Yeah.
My mother was also a clergy member. We grew up in the church, basically.
Yeah.
If I remember Sunday mornings, I would cry saying, I don't feel well, I'm sick, I don't want to go to church today. And my mother would say, come to church, we'll pray for you. Mm-hmm. So all throughout my life, I've had that, I would say church upbringing. I grew up in the church and moved to the United States when I was about 12 years old. Same process continued. I was still going to church. My mother was actively involved in the church. My father was also actively involved in the church. And throughout that time, we would always go to church, pray, but there was always something in the back of my mind wondering, is there something beyond all of this that go to church every Sunday and then Monday through Saturday, you pretty much return to the things that people do. So church was just a component, or we would say God was just one part. We would go to church on Sunday, and then maybe Monday we go and we do whatever else we would normally do. And at points during the week we would think about God. We would pray before we eat, but there was still something that I felt that I was just missing. Then and for years it bothered me. I researched, I read, did a lot of reading, and I just felt very uncomfortable. Now, for some people, it's okay, to go to church and then every Sunday maybe involved in a youth group or visit the sick people. Those are all good things. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, when you go home and you're going to bed, laying on the pillow, thinking, okay, so that this was the end of my day, that was the point where I felt that, is there something else to this life? So as I continued when I was around 19, I mean, I stopped going to church when I was about 14.
Yeah.
And at 19, I did a lot of reading, because for some reason the question became more and more embedded in my mind. Why are you here? There has to be more to life than just what you see here. And at that point I started studying. I studied Buddhism, Taoism, all the isms you can think of. And somehow I came across a book. I had a friend of mine, he would always laugh at me. He said, you know, all these things you're reading, you could find it in Islam. But I thought Islam was this weird religion, you know, people wearing hats on their heads, long beard, and men wearing dresses. And, it was just something that, you know, it's okay. You know, I don't have any problems with these people, but it's not something that I wanted to do. I wasn't attracted to it. And, you know, this friend of mine, we're still friends today. He was very patient with me. He would give me books to read. He would check in on me. We would have a lot of conversations, a lot of going back and forth. And, you know, slowly but surely, I started discovering Islam.
You don't, by the way, you mentioned hats and dresses and all these other things, but you don't have any hats or dresses on, and you're a Muslim now, and you look very sharp, mashallah.
Well, that's the beauty of Islam. Being a Muslim is, of course, there are people who they wear what's called a thobe and the kufi, and that's traditionally something that people do in their country. It's also what we would say it's a part of the Sunnah, because the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, he wore those things. Yeah. And some people feel that it brings them closer to Islam, it brings them closer to the Prophet, it shows love for the Prophet. There's absolutely nothing wrong with wearing those clothes. But on the other hand, Islam is also a religion that takes into account that there are different people from different areas with different colors, different sizes, different shapes. And the one thing that brings us together is the love of Allah, the oneness of God, the belief that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger, and that Islam is a religion that promotes tolerance.
Yeah. So that's an interesting point, yeah, because Islam, I mean, if you want to dress modestly, if you want to imitate a lot of the prophets, the last and final messenger, the best person to emulate, which is, it's actually not a dress. Some people would say from the outside, what are these people wearing dresses? No, this is something just a modest way of dressing like the prophets dress. And if you look at the Muslims today, this is how Jesus or any of the prophets, they used to dress, in that modest way, a humble way. Isn't that true?
That's right.
Yeah. So let's talk about cool, because we kind of got this thing mixed up. We think, you know, that being cool is, you know, getting some champagne and going to the nightclub and riding around in a limo and trying to be with these superstars that you see on the TV. But we know that's not cool. What was your definition of cool before? What were some of the cool things, quote unquote, that you were doing before Islam? What did you consider cool? What did you find motivating you back then?
Well, and for most people today, I would say it's the same. It's money.
Money.
And money was a great motivator.
Yeah.
I loved the money, and with the money came a lot of things. I had nice cars. I had a lot of nice women I was running around with. But at the end of the day, it always came back to the question: why are you here? Are you happy with what you have? You have all this money, you have a nice car, you have pretty girlfriends, but at the end of the day, there was something knocking in the bottom, behind the scenes in my soul.
The soul, huh?
Where is all this going to take you? What's going to happen 20 years from now? That question was always coming back to me, and it was just, I thought getting a nicer car, getting another girlfriend, or just having more things would fill that void. But the thing I found out was that the more that I acquired these things, the more that I wanted, and that void wasn't being filled, because it's a void that cannot be filled, cannot be satiated with material things.
So you mentioned Buddhism, you mentioned some other isms, being brought into a family of, people who, you mentioned one time that you were actually, you considered yourself like a Bible thumper.
Oh yeah.
You got